go. All right.
I don't have it.
Ms. Gonzalez, what do you mean you don't have it?
That's fine.
You
That's
absolutely
okay.
have it. I can't. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. That's what we're going to call it today. So for those of you who know, Genesis and I, we do a Facebook Live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Last night, we had a fabulous 1 hour conversation that only Genesis and I could hear because I didn't properly set up our mics. So all you guys heard was absolute silence while
Is your
our
mic on?
lips were moving. Yes.
Is it? No,
Yes.
it was not.
But we're using that one, so it's fine.
Okay.
We're going to be just fine. I hope.
Thank you, everyone who voted yesterday. It was fantastic. Thank you.
I'm not a big fan because clearly you reached out to people and you
No,
coerced them.
no, I didn't.
I think you did.
No, I didn't.
I don't
And
know.
it was your idea to ask what topic we should talk about.
It was my
The
idea,
same.
but yeah, I think you manipulated
I didn't.
the vote. I think you stuffed the ballots. I do.
So,
So what are we talking about, Miss Winner?
no, I think
haven't been
you
able.
should tell us what we are talking about.
You can't.
Since you saw the topic multiple times, every time someone voted.
That's how we're gonna do this.
You should know the topic by heart now.
That's how we're gonna do this. The topic was, would you trust AI to sell your home? It is not. It is not. That was not the topic. The topic is the worst risks sellers never see coming. The worst risks sellers never see coming.
Yes.
What did you want to talk about, Miss Winner?
Well, there are multiple, risks, but one of the worst risks that I think homeowners don't see coming is the value of the home, their actual value. And what do I mean by that? Well, sometimes people are living in their home and they look at Zillow, they look at Redfin to see how much their home is worth, and they base that information again based on these resources. Zillow, Redfin. Many times, the majority of the time, this information is actually not accurate for multiple reasons. One of them, and the biggest one, is Zillow has never been at their house.
But Big Brother is always watching. I mean, we have Alexas all over the place. We have Siris all over the place. Elon Musk is definitely inside of all of our bedrooms. So why can't we assume
I
that
don't think Zillow is receiving those information.
I mean, I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
It is not. In fact, do you remember? I think like 1 or 2 years ago when Zillow decided to start buying a bunch of houses, and it was really bad for Zillow. Again, they were basing their estimate the way that they do the estimate that you see it online.
Yeah.
So
it was tragic. It didn't end well for Zillow.
No.
No.
Because they have never been at the house, and the reality is that in a neighborhood, in fact, on the same street, next to my house, for example, it could be that my house sold, your house sold, look the same on the outside, completely in the
different.
inside. Zillow doesn't know that the bathroom in the lower level doesn't work.
Yeah.
Zillow doesn't know that you updated the kitchen. There are so many things that Zillow don't know. And so if you trust that estimate,
that's risk number one right there, is trusting some third party to value your home without actually having seen the property. So that's risk number one. And that risk of valuation expands into so many things, not just, well, Zillow doesn't know the pricing, right? It expands into estate planning, into divorce negotiations, into business planning, into so many other things, you know. So the valuation is critical. critical. That's risk number one. You have to know what the value of your home truly is. And so Genesis, how does one know?
And before I go there, I I said Zillow as an example, but it's not only Zillow, right?
Right.
It's the neighbor that doesn't work in real estate,
Mm-hmm.
that think that they know what they are doing, and sometimes they try to help,
Yeah.
is with good intention, but they just don't know.
Yeah.
If like I go to a lawyer to talk about my, I don't know, my headache.
To a lawyer, you're gonna
The lawyer is not a doctor.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly what I was gonna say. I was like, why are you gonna go to a lawyer to talk about your headaches?
This is exactly what I'm trying to point out here.
Yeah,
yes,
you're right.
exactly the
You're right.
reaction. Yes,
You're right.
right? Is the neighbor that doesn't work in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
It's the family member that there is always, at least in my family, there is always someone that knows
in
that
every
knows it
family.
all.
In every family, I think there's someone like that who is what I like to call un todólogo. They are an expert in everything, in todo, okay? And so they'll be the ones that be like, oh, well, I bought a house, back in 1992, and I didn't have to do any of that stuff that you're talking about. You must not know what you're doing. Brother, please go sit down. Or sister, please go sit down, because I mean, if I could go back to 1992, I would be. If I could go back to 1992, I want to say that I was in middle school.
Okay.
Okay.
A lot has changed.
A lot has changed.
We didn't have these phones that we have.
No. My goodness. We still had payphones out on the street in 1992. Yeah. I mean, you were probably born in 1992, so I don't want to hear.
No. I was born after. Few years after
so
that.
I don't want to talk to you.
So.
She just called all of us old because we used.
I mean, I feel like I am old too. But
Stop
I
it.
was not born in 1990.
Stop it. 81 baby here. 1981.
Don't add years to me. So how do you get a good market analysis for your home? Well, there are multiple ways that you can do that. One of them is but talk to a local realtor, right? Mm-hmm. That local realtor that knows the area is going to be able to tell you what is the value of your home. And many times there is a service that is free of cost. Mm-hmm. Another thing that you can do if you don't want to talk to a realtor is you can actually hire an appraiser. Of course, the appraiser will absolutely charge you for it. But there is another way to also have an accurate information. Don't rely on what those pages online said.
But Genesis, so you're telling me not to rely on Zillow, right? Yeah. As a seller, but can I rely on Zillow, or what are the risks, I should say, of using the Zillow data or the Redfin data or the Realtor.com data or whatever, fill in the blank portal data when I'm a buyer, right? Like, I know we're talking about sellers here, right? But what is the risk to a seller if the buyer is the one using the data from Redfin, from fill in the portal?
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to try to answer actually both questions, is how it impact the seller and how it impact the buyer. For the buyer, there are multiple ways that can happen. It's Zillow gives estimates. Sometimes it could be that, hey, yes, the estimate is correct. Fantastic. Many times the estimates are incorrect. And so it could be that the estimate that Zillow is given is higher than the actual value of the home, and the buyer ended up overpaying, which on the seller side, that's fantastic. That is valuable. You as a buyer, after you close on the home, you will soon realize that you overpaid for the house if you did, and you are not going to be happy.
Not at all.
We have seen this in the past, and that's why I'm saying that. So don't rely on Zillow as a buyer. It could be the opposite, right? It could be that the home actually worth more money than the estimate that Zillow is given. But because the buyer is looking at Zillow estimate, is saying, no, I'm only gonna pay this amount. Well, it could be that the seller doesn't get all the money that the home is actually worth and leave money on the table.
Yeah. We've had situations in which we've seen this happen both on the seller and on the buyer side.
Yeah.
Or exactly as you're saying, you know, we'll go to see a seller and they'll say, well, Zillow says that the home is valued X. And I immediately answer, oh, cool. When did they come here? Because I'm dying to get a hold of somebody at Zillow to ask them how they are coming up with these
Numbers.
valuations,
Yeah.
right? And of course they'll say, well, never, right? Okay. So we're
how do
going
you
to,
know?
we're just going to trust them, right? But what I'm trying to get at is the problem with a seller trusting the Zillow value or being, hard on that Zillow value is that you may be letting opportunities go, real opportunities to add real value to your home. We've had sellers that have come to us and say, you know what, I want to put a huge in-ground pool in my home. Phenomenal. Great. Zillow says that it'll increase my value by X. Fantastic. Here's the problem. You live in New England. You're going to have 2 months worth of summer, right? Um, but more importantly, you will be the only home in the neighborhood that's going to have a pool. Like the rest of the homes don't have a pool. So now you're going to become an outlier. And that outlier usually sticks out, whether at the top of the pack or at the bottom of the pack. Buyers may not be thrilled with having a pool in your yard, especially if they have no more green space to actually enjoy. Like if your backyard is just a pool, right? Zillow doesn't know that. So Zillow is going to be looking at, okay, the cost to add a pool in New England is X, and you should expect a return of Y. Fantastic. I'm with them there. That's public data. We can surmise what that expected return should be. What Zillow is not doing though is adding that into the complexity of what is your neighborhood, right? And so let's take it away from a pool because not everybody loves a pool. Let's say this was a real life scenario for me, Genesis. Carlos and I, we were flipping a home probably, I want to say 5 years ago. Okay. Beautiful home. It was a ranch with a basement. We gutted this house, completely did it over. Beautiful finishes, corner lot, detached garage, like everything that a downsizer is looking for. Okay. And I designed it to be ultra modern. Beautiful tile work around the fireplace, under the island, 3 bathrooms full of tile. I mean, it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. It sat on the market for 6 months.
That's a
Everything was done in this house. I mean, soup to nuts. Everything was done. New heating, windows, roofing. Everything was done to this house. Do you know why it sat? Because I overbuilt for the neighborhood. I didn't take the time to understand what the neighborhood called for so that I could be in the middle of the pack. So then I became an outlier. This home became an outlier. It stood out from everything else. And people just didn't know how to make sense of it, right? The outside conformed beautifully.
And the thing is that when someone is buying a home, the majority of the time is paying for that home and the neighborhood. And so there are people that they want to live in a specific neighborhood because the home has the characteristics that you are looking for. So in your case, for example, you are saying in that neighborhood the homes were a little bit older, like they have character. Yes. It was not modern homes. So more likely the people that were trying to buy in that neighborhood, although it was a desirable neighborhood, that's what they were looking for. They were looking for the charm. They were looking
the traditional.
Yes.
Yes. So risk number 2 that you run into as a seller is overbuilding because you love it, right? Because I'm not saying don't put the things that you love in there. Just be aware that you are the one that loves this, but not necessarily everybody else is going to love it. My sister has a steam shower. I am so jealous of that. I know, Lord, I'm not supposed to be jealous, but I am so jealous of that steam shower. And I have tried every which way to Sunday to have my husband put that steam into our shower. Okay? And his point is valid. He's like, why? What is the return that we're going to get where our home is located.
And I mean,
right?
And I mean, it's not to say that you should not make any upgrades in your home that make your life easier or happier. Like, yes, it's just there needs to be a balance.
Yes.
But yes, you can do one or two things, that you are gonna have any return, but that you are okay with
That
it
you're gonna enjoy
because
it.
you are
Absolutely.
using it because you love it so
Right.
much.
But here's the problem. In my scenario, we built this home thinking it was going to be a forever home.
Yes.
And we very quickly found out that it is too much house for us, considering that the kids are now off to college, right? And so now our forever home became our maybe 5-year home, right? And so, do I want a steamer in my shower? Absolutely. The reality, exactly. Do I need one? Right? How many times am I going to use it considering the line of work that we're in? Maybe the month of December I'll use it, right? Because that's when we're off. Maybe, hopefully, right? But not only am I not going to see a return, I want it, but I'm not actually going to be able to enjoy it as much. So does it make sense? It doesn't make any sense for me to put it in. Now, if my home were in Marblehead, for example, you best be sure I'm putting in the steamer. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because certain neighborhoods in Marblehead call for that, right? Certain neighborhoods in Salem call for that, right? But so what I'm trying to say is don't overbuild and be aware that when you go to add certain amenities to your home, you may not get the return that you are expecting. It's not going to be a dollar for dollar return, not in all things, so you have to be aware of that. How many times have we gone seeing a seller who's like, oh, well, I just did this kitchen. Well, yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. But did you notice that your countertops are not level?
Yeah. And sometimes, not only that, but sometimes everyone have different likes and dislikes, right? So maybe what I feel like is a great and beautiful kitchen, maybe that's not your case. And so when you are doing renovations, you need to take that into consideration. There are some desires that are very unique to you, that's not the general. That's not what it's common, right? And you need to be very careful. We know someone a few years ago. This person is a colleague of us was trying to sell a house. The seller had renovated the bathroom and the kitchen, completely renovated, and of course the seller wanted to see the return in the price of the home. There was only a problem. All the buyers that were into the home, the first thing that they will say, oh, I need to renovate this kitchen in this bathroom, because the seller made the renovation based on 1950 and not like 1950 high-end finishers, but 1950, right? And while that was great for the seller, was not the reality for the majority of the buyers. The buyers were like, oh yes, we need to renovate this kitchen, we need to renovate this bathroom. So you need to be aware of that. So you can do few renovations that are unique to you, but just don't make the entire house unique to yourself if you want to see a return. Now, if you are okay with losing money, well, that's totally fine. I will say that with paint, that's super easy because paint is not that expensive. So if you want to paint each wall one color, go for it. That's an easy fix. But it's not like, oh, I'm going to do this kitchen this way. That is a little bit.
It's a more permanent thing.
Yeah. And going back to what we were saying about Zillow and not being able to go inside your home, something that you need to think is, imagine, for example, my neighbor sold this house for, let's say, $550. But my neighbor's house was not decluttered. There was clothing,
stuff everywhere,
furniture everywhere. The home was not cleaned properly, so it didn't show well. Buyers were not attracted to the home. But now I go, I clean the house, I remove maybe some of the furniture so that the space looks bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's the same, it's basically the same house, same size, same layout, but just because I took the time to clean the house, remove some of the furnitures, remove the clothing that were all around the house, that is going to present better in front of the buyers. The buyers will feel, oh, this place looks nice. So more likely I'm gonna get more money for the house. And some people think, well, Genesis, but it's only furniture. We are not buying the furniture.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Genesis, but it's only paint. It's easy to repaint the house. Yes, some people may think that way, but many buyers don't think that way,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they are buying for the first time. The majority of the buyers are not only looking at what is the size of the house, how many bedrooms does this have, but it's just like how this house makes me feel.
Mm-hmm.
How do I feel when I go into the door? And so sometimes it's a little bit harder to feel at home,
Yes.
to feel comfortable, is there is stuff everywhere.
There's a study I was reading in my dooms scrolling through whatever app it was that was talking about exactly that. It was saying that your space is a reflection of how you feel. Okay, so if the space is utter chaos, you're gonna feel chaos. You're gonna feel that stress, that uncertainty that overwhelms all senses because you can't make sense of it, much less know where to start. And so if that happens to us in our own homes with our own stuff in our own spaces, imagine someone else walking in from the streets and not knowing where to put their feet, where to sit down, it's chaos, it's overwhelming. And so presentation matters. It matters. And no one can tell me presentation doesn't matter. When you're dating, and you're looking for your better half, if he or she shows up in sweats and something unappealing, and you're not at the gym in this example, it's gonna feel out of place. It's gonna feel like low intentionality. And so, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to attract a buyer, or are you just trying to check off a box to say that you tried to sell your home and you couldn't? Right? Which sometimes happens. Sometimes you've had sellers that have said, you know what, I really don't want to do this. Oh, this is part of a nasty divorce, and I could care less. I could care less how much he gets or she gets. Like,
Sometimes it's even worse than that. Sometimes it's just like, I want her to get nothing, or I want him to get nothing. Like, which that's another story.
That's a whole other thing. But it goes back to understanding the value of your home. Imagine going through a divorce proceeding and telling the judge or showing the judge that the value of the home is X, right, based on Zillow, and now your entire divorce decree is based on that number. And so you've likely left money on the table. Or on the flip side, you're just going to be sitting there with a home that's overpriced because, again, Zillow never came in to take a look and give you an actual valuation on your home. And then on the flip side, when you're that buyer and you're relying, Zillow now has this tool in some houses that it tells you, hey, this house, if you really want to get it, if you want like a 90% chance of getting this house, you should offer X on this house, right? And it gives you 4 different options on what you should offer. Again, Zillow hasn't been in the property, right?
Yeah.
What I love about this feature is actually how terrible it is. There's a condo in Salem, okay? We have many condos for sale. But there's one particular condo that when I looked at it on Zillow, it said that the best offer for it would be like
580, I think.
588, I think it was. Okay, that you would have a 90% chance of getting your offer accepted at 580. Okay.
You will get 100% chance if you offer
Yes.
that amount.
Here's the problem. That condo has been on the market for over 3 weeks. They came on the market far below that 580 price point. Zillow has not adjusted their prediction based on how many days on market. If
And
you're,
it was wrong from the beginning.
it was
like
wrong from the
that's
beginning.
the thing.
But
it was wrong from the beginning.
But let's say, okay, let's give them that. It was wrong from the beginning. But if it was wrong from the beginning, this is a true measure of the market. Wouldn't Zillow know what our average days to offer is? Wouldn't Zillow know when to shift pricing? Do you see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Those are things that we as realtors are able to do for you. We're telling our clients right now, especially those that are in condos, expect to have first and second open house, meaning first weekend, second weekend, because they're not moving as fast, right? And they're not moving as fast because of interest rates, because of the political climate, because of so many other things that are unrelated to your home. And so for that reason, we want to make sure that we highlight all the beautiful things that your home has to offer. So the first 2 weeks, there's no need to panic. But if we're going to week 3 and we're going to week 4, it's not panic, but we need to re-strategize and refresh what the expectation for the market is, because the market has spoken. The market has told you that the price they're at is not where you need to be, given the amenities that you're offering. So what I'm getting at is, yes, there are risks to using Zillow as your price predictor if you're a seller, but there's also major risks if you're a buyer. Imagine that same condo, you're a buyer and you come in and you pay that 588.
Yeah.
Your offer's going to get accepted 1,000%. I can
overpaying.
guarantee it. But you're overpaying for that house. Yeah. And you're like, well, you know what, Cynthia? It doesn't matter. I really like the neighborhood. This is exactly well. That's fine. I'm not to do that. If that's where you're like gung ho, great, fantastic, do that. But now you've just set a whole new threshold.
You even stop liking the house, okay? After that, you start looking at the house weird.
Yeah. Now you've set a whole new threshold for all the other condos in this example that are in that community, right? Because now
your neighbors will love you.
They'll love you. They're gonna be like, oh, wait a second.
You're the one that are not gonna be happy.
If Genesis got 588 for that condo, that's a below ground, and I'm making this up because that's not the case for this, but I don't want you guys to go find it. But anyways, you know what I mean? It's a ground level or below ground. It smells kind of musty, and she got 588. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I must get 650 for my corner top floor unit, which gets all this sunlight because it's south facing. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the opposite can happen too. So it could be that you see an estimate on Zillow, and because the estimate is outside your budget or your pre-approval, you decide to pass on the home and not put an offer, which is a mistake too. Because again, it could be that the estimate is wrong, and you could have gotten the house for the amount that you were pre-approved for at the beginning. So having accurate information, it's so important. And not only in regards to real estate, in regards to buying or selling a house, it's just whatever you do in life, at least in my case, I want to have accurate information. Mm-hmm. I don't like to make decisions based on guesses. I think, or I believe. No. I like to make decisions based on accurate facts, information, because that will help you to succeed in those decisions that you're planning to do. Yeah. And this is good not only for someone that is looking to buy. This is good not only for someone that is looking for sale, but again, as a homeowner, you always want to know what is the value of your home, because there are so many things that you can do, Cynthia. Yeah. What things can you do? You can start a business. Yes. You can send a kid to college. Yes. You can pay off medical debt. Yeah. You can avoid bankruptcy. You can pay student debt. You can go on that vacation that you wanted. You can start a foundation. You can donate to there's so how do you do that? Like what are you talking about? Me selling my house? Is that how I'm gonna? No. Genesis, my husband and I started an entire flipping business using the equity in our home. Simple. Okay, we have flipped houses from the southern New Hampshire border all the way down to Brockton, as far west as Framingham. Okay, for the past 7 years.
Okay, and we did it by using the equity in our homes. We knew that we wanted to start a business. We didn't have the capital, but we had owned our home for a period of time and we had equity in there. So we went to the bank and we talked about, do we refinance our mortgage? Okay, do we sell the home? And it's like that, none of that felt right. We ended up going out and getting a home equity line of credit, a HELOC. And we used that HELOC as leverage to be able to start with a little tiny $60,000 house. I mean, that's how far back I'm going, right? And like we did an entire project and we sold it and kept the profits back into the business and so on and so forth. And we built a business by leveraging the equity in our home. We've sent our kids to college leveraging the equity in our homes. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, and we haven't sold our home. We ended up buying other homes and we kept our original home as an investment property.
You are creating money.
I'm creating wealth,
yeah,
right? I am creating a legacy for our children so that they don't have the same challenges that I had or that my husband had growing up. They're going to have a leg up, right? We hear it all the time. Well, you know what? You've been in this country for 3 generations. You were born on third base. Yeah, I get it. There's no reason to be bitter about that. I'm not naturally from this country. I was born off the boat. Hello. But I'm giving my children and my grandchildren an opportunity to at least be born on first base, right? By being able to leverage the real estate that we have, leverage the equity. And that doesn't always mean that you always keep the real estate, right? Sometimes it does make sense to sell it. Sometimes it does make sense to refinance. Other times it makes sense to just go get a HELOC, right?
And sometimes it makes sense not to do anything.
To do nothing, right? Just to hang tight because you've got other stuff that are a priority. So you have to leverage, you have to know the value of your home in order for you to properly leverage it because business is math. Every which way that you look at it, business is math. And even though you're living in your home, it's still math. There's a business implication to it, right? And so
and the last thing that you want to do is start making plans based on an idea that you think your home is worth, and then realize, oh, actually, Mr. So-and-so, we cannot give you the money that you were expecting for the equity line.
Yes.
And now you are in trouble because you already started making orders in materials and do. So before you make any plans, before you take any decisions, you need to make sure that you have the right information. And the reason why we emphasize on this is because, yes, you live in that house. That is the place where you live, probably the place where you raise your children or the place where you are going to raise your children. But that is not only the place where you live, right? That's also probably your retirement.
Yes.
That's what you are gonna give to your children. That's what you're gonna pass on your children when you die.
We're all gonna die. That's a guarantee. But we're talking about death also, Genesis. In order to make your estate planning, which if you are a 90s child, your knees are probably aching in the morning. If you're an 80s kid, your knees and your back is definitely aching. You got to be talking to an estate planner. Shut up.
No, it's true. I am from the. I'm not gonna say because then you will guess my age, but that baby face is not that young.
Listen. What I'm trying to say is that 80s kids, 90s kids, you got to be doing your estate planning right now. And how are you going to do an estate planning not knowing what you are holding? How many times have we gone to a seller and we're like, hey, your home is valued, and they're like, shut up. You're smoking. You say, what? Huh? Yeah, Miss Ma'am, you have a balance of X in your home. This is how much equity you've got. No way. What? I mean, we just like
and the opposite happened too, Cynthia, right? Especially for these people that bought the house, I don't know, 50 years ago, right? And the home is old. They never have done any updates. and the city has the house assessed at a higher price than the home is actually worth. And you are paying, and you're overpaying on taxes, where you can go into the city and say, well, I want you to come into my house, reassess the home, because you are assessing my house based on my neighbor that has a brand new construction home. And when that happens, then the city will reduce your taxes. Of course, these are very specific cases, so don't do that. If you
don't do it on the flip side.
Don't do that if you are not 100% sure that this is your case. Because many times, not always, but many times, the city assesses the value of the house a little bit lower than the actual value, and that's what you want, because now you are paying less taxes. If you are not in the situation that I just presented to you, you don't want the city to come into your home to see how the home looks.
The city can't unsee what they saw.
And this is why, again, it is so important when you get a market analysis for your home is from someone that actually has been in the home, because that has an impact. Again, it's not the same what the city sees on public records than the home actually looks. Now they have seen it, they will increase those taxes.
A risk also that I see, Genesis, is buyers, when they go to see a home, they will ask, or they will say, oh, I saw that they bought this house for such and such, $500,000. Why are they asking $1 million for it?
Well, if the home is worth $1 million,
but Genesis,
they're gonna ask for $1 million.
They bought it for $500,000. And they, they did the kitchen and the bathroom. I mean, how much is that? I mean, at best, let's say they spent $50,000.
That has nothing to do.
What do you mean, Genesis?
That's not the buyer.
Math is math, right?
No.
This is the argument that we have constantly, right? Because a lot of buyers think that value is derived by adding 1 + 1 to equal 2. What they're not accounting for is the fact that there is a factor of what are the comparables and appreciation, right? What are the comparables doing? What are other homes in that neighborhood with the same amenities selling for? That is the question. Not, well, you bought it for such and such, you put in such and such, so then anything beyond that number, you should be happy. I'm sorry. Did you take into account the cost of money? Did you take into account how long it took to do these renovations? Did you take into account that maybe they bought this property well under its value, given the condition that the property was in, right? All of these things play a major role as to future valuation. But more importantly, putting all of that aside, the determining factor for valuation are going to be the homes that are similar to that property, that are both similar in structure, similar in amenities, similar in condition, similar in geography. Okay, all of those things are going to help determine the valuation of the property.
And flipping the coin with the example that you just gave, right? The buyer, when let's say an investor buy a property, flip the property, and spend more money than he actually was looking for, the buyer is not gonna say, well, you know what? I know the home is only worth 500, but because you spend 200K and you bought it for 4, I'm gonna give you 650.
Right.
Like, no buyer is not gonna do that.
Nobody's gonna do that.
Because again, that's not the value of the home. People are gonna pay for the value of the home.
Now, that said, value is always determined not by the seller, not by the neighbors, not by the appraiser, not by the home inspector, not by the realtor. The value of anything will always be determined by the buyer.
And what do you mean by that?
In your example that you just gave, okay? If that buyer knows that the property is worth $500,000, but they are willing to pay $650, they will pay the $650. They've assigned a value to this. We don't know why they want to do this. We've heard stories of, you know what, I will pay whatever because this home has a sentimental value to me. It was in my family's generation, like you're like whatever. Or I'm so desperate, I don't want to look anymore. This is what I'm buying. I don't want to miss out anymore, right? And so buyers will go ahead and will present an outlandish offer, and you'll know that it's outlandish because the next words out of the seller's team is or are, if the appraisal is short, are you going to cover it?
Mm-hmm.
The minute that you hear that, you should know that the seller's team does not think that the number you just gave is actually going to stick with the financing terms unless you're paying cash, right? If you're paying cash, it's not a big deal, right? But if there's a bank involved, they're going to want to do an appraisal. The bank is not going to lend money.
But even if you pay cash, you don't want to overpay. You never want to overpay.
But the seller is not going to ask that question if you're paying cash, is what I'm saying, right? And so the minute the seller's team says to you, are you going to cover any difference between your offer price and the appraisal? The minute you hear that, it should throw a red flag.
If they know what they are doing.
If they know what they're doing.
Sometimes you're just like, yes, I cover it because you know that they have no clue.
Right, exactly. But what I'm saying is the buyer sets the value. The buyer is going to be the one who sets the tone. You could say that your home is worth $50 million, right? If it's sitting on the market for 6 months, the market has spoken. The buyers have spoken. It's not worth that much money, right? So you need to now chase the buyer down to a number that makes sense, okay? So again, value and price are different things. And you need to understand that value and price are different things. The price is what I'm asking for. The value is what the buyer is willing to pay for it. And sometimes that's just completely irrational.
And I think that people who have been searching for a home for some time, they probably already know this. So one thing is the price that is on the house. The other thing is the actual value of the home. There are sellers that they are very in love with their home and they think their home worth $1 million. And other times the home is priced at a lower number, but the value of the home is actually higher than the asking price. So it's just case by case scenario.
Yeah. So,
but the people who have the correct information are the ones that succeed.
Yes.
That's the key, is having the right information. Who owns the information is the one that is going to win that battle.
Yeah, and that's one reason why the portals have become very famous, right? The Zillows, the Realtor.coms, the Redfins, because they do provide a lot of information, which is very helpful.
Yep.
It is very helpful to see the walkability score, to see what the schools are being rated at. Like all of this is public information, but they've managed to put it all in one place, making it super easy and digestible,
and
right?
then you're even able to walk on the neighborhood without being
there, right? It's perfect, right? So there's a lot of benefits, and I'm not dogging Zillow or Realtor or Trulia. When we go to list a house, we look to see what everybody is saying, right? So that we can be prepared for the objections. One cool feature that Zillow has that I love is seeing how many people saved a particular house. That tells me how popular this house is. So when a realtor is telling me, oh, well, we've had a lot of activity on this property, I'm sorry, Miss Ma'am. And by a lot,
people,
do you mean the 6 people?
At their house?
Exactly, right? And it could be, of course, if there's more than 6 people, of course. But when I'm looking at that compared to a home that has 200 people save it, oh well, this particular home has something that is attracting more buyers, right? And so again, I'm not saying that the information that's on Zillow is all negative and all bad. We're just saying that you should not just dive in to be like, okay, well that's what they say, that's what I'm going to offer them. It's more than that. It's more nuanced than that, Ms. Gonzalez. That's my thing. Okay, so I have, just to summarize, a bunch of risks that I wrote when I'm taking notes here. See if I missed here. So risk number 1 Obviously, the overarching risk is not knowing the true value of your home. Risk number 2 would be overbuilding just because you love it. Okay. Risk number 3 is not presenting your home in the best possible light. First impressions matter, big time. Risk number 4, Zillow offer price suggestions are not real.
Yeah.
What they're telling you is just the same thing as is a reverse estimate, right?
And
for
yet
buyers.
We already have the results of that.
Right, right.
About, oh Lord Jesus.
Number 5, basing your price on what they bought it for plus what they invested in it, right? Like that math, that's not how business is done, right? And then number 6 is letting the city base your taxes on the incorrect assessed data. Am I missing anything?
No, you.
Okay.
We'll see you next time.
It'll be Tuesday.
It will be Tuesday at 7.
All right, if we have the audio working. Peace out, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye. I hope the audio was working.
It was working.